Okay, today what I want to talk about is master shot versus coverage. You're going to hear these terms a lot, so let's just dive into it. Master shot is the shot of a whole scene in one take. A take being how many times you can do a shot. So let's say we have a scene that's 2 minutes long and we shoot it from one camera angle and we go all the way through the scene and we never turn the camera off. The camera goes on at the beginning, the camera goes off at the end. Usually it's a wide shot. Normally it's static, which is locked off, and we use that as a blueprint. And so then afterward, if we want to, we can go in and pick off our coverage, which coverage is a different story, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I have a clip here from Bullets Over Broadway, which is a Woody Allen film, and it actually is a master shot. A lot of people think that there's a lot of coverage in here, but there's not. As we see, Helen Sinclair, she comes down from the stage, or from the stairs. She's walking around. She's actually griping this whole time. I want to show you this without the sound because I want you to see that there are no cuts in it. If you take it and listen, they're great performances. If you want to go watch it sometime, that's great. Pick it up. This scene took about 3 days to rehearse and took 1 day to shoot. So as we see the cameras following her as she's walking behind, it could be steady cam, dolly. A lot of times we have steady cams that are on a dolly so they can do what we call a walk off, or if you're on a crane you can walk off with the steady cam and continue a shot when you're high up in the air. As you see, now we're in a full two shot, and we're going to see that they walk in and out of shot sizes as far as close-ups, medium shots, two shots, extreme long shots. It's pretty incredible what you can do with a good master, but it takes a long time, and the performance has to be perfect. They don't have take one or take two. And it's more believable because in real life, we don't cut. Maybe when we dream, we're cutting, but in real life, we don't cut to this. We don't close our eyes and walk closer to something and open them and say we cut. So it's more believable, especially with transitions in performance. You have to have good actors be able to do a nice master shot. Well, this is actually a moving master. It's not locked off and it's not totally wide. But we are seeing a lot of movement because they're big theater actors, and he shot this way. He shot a lot of this movie like that because most of this film is about a theater production. So he wanted to make it more like we were watching one. But yet the actors could get close, they could go far away from us, and at this point, she's realizing that she does want to work with this director. And guess what's going on? We're on 2 minutes and 7 seconds, and there's not been one cut yet. This is what we call a master shot. Now, if all of a sudden he cut and went to a close-up, or cut and went to a medium shot, cut to a cutaway, or to an insert of an inanimate object, then that would be using coverage, then it would cease to be a master anymore. I mean, it's still a master shot when you shoot it, but when you cut it, it's not. Now, coverage is all shots cut into the master shot. What this means, and I said it before, anything that you shoot, let's say, and it's usually out of order too. In that last clip we watched of Bullets Over Broadway, if they would have cut shot a close up at any time, or shot a medium shot, or shot an insert shot anything, then those shots would be considered coverages. Usually on your script, when you mark it, it's a line right down through the whole scene, and it just says master shot. And usually a master shot is usually your scenes are 1.1, 1.2. A master is usually just one number. It's the number one. So that's a good way to choose it. Or sometimes we show that our scenes are numbers and our shots are letters. That you might see that too, but usually just a master shot is usually just one letter. One number. Okay. Let's talk about basic coverage right now. Basic coverage. This is just getting simple as we possibly can to get the psychology of the shot. I know a lot of times you've been hearing about the lighting and lines intersecting in this, and that's very important. And I know you picked that up in your cinematography classes. But let's talk a little bit more in depth about the psychology of a shot. And a shot size deals with the camera's relationship to a subject and its psychological attributes. Um, every shot has a reason. Every shot has a meaning. There's three basic shot sizes that all other ones derive from. A long shot shows geography. Just remember that a long shot usually is the subject is half the frame of the size. That means the geography is really the most important part of the scene, or the shot. And that means that you're trying to show the audience how small somebody is, or trying to show what their geography is around them. A lot of times we have establishing shots that are long shots. We have extreme long shots where a person is a quarter the size of the frame. Here's an example of a nice long shot. Guy riding down the beach with a horse. And sometimes showing somebody against the water being that small just goes to show how big nature is, or how big our earth is, or how big our geography is surrounding us. It's a good time to make somebody look smaller. So keep that in mind. That's the psychology of a long shot. Let's talk about medium shot. The medium shot is the most neutral shot, and the reason why is because a long time ago when television was first invented, they didn't use a lot of close-ups because it scared people. A television went into the family room where people sat and they watched with their family, and when a close-up would come on, it was too close. It would scare people. People had nightmares. This was established a long time ago, and it's been documented that sponsors did not like when if a television show ended with a close-up and they cut to their product, because they didn't want an audience associating their product with a close-up which was in your face. So they asked them to basically take a full shot and a close-up and split it down the middle, where you get a medium shot. Medium shots are great because they can be dramatic, but they can also be comedic too, because we can see facial expression plus movement. So that's pretty much what a medium shot is for. So character from the waist to the top of their head. This is a shot from The Shining inside the bathroom where Delbert Grady and Jack Nicholson's character are talking. This is just an example. Kubrick was a master at texture when it came to what was painted behind them, what the set pieces were, the colors, the lenses that he used. We'll talk about texture and interpretation. Kubrick was one of the masters at it. So pick up any film you pick up by Kubrick. Basically, every single frame could be hung in a museum for how wonderful the craft and composition was. Let's talk about the close-up. The close-up can be one of the most overly used shots, but it is the greatest psychological identification that we have with a character because we see through the eyes. The eyes are the windows of the soul. And that's why good actors, you can tell that they've been training, because at the beginning of filmmaking, they took theater actors, put them in front of the camera. That's why a lot of old performances are very campy, because they don't understand how minute it was to be a film actor, because when you have a camera right in front of you, your eyes can't be bugging out, and you can't be screaming to the last row of a theater. So in about 1930s is when method started happening over here in America, and Marlon Brando, if you want to see a great performance, is on the waterfront, and that was one of the first times we ever seen method acting, because the fact of what he could do in a close-up and how natural he was. So that's why close-ups are very important. Again, it's the eyes, and that's what we end up. That's where we feel the emotion. Don't overuse the close-up, because overusing it means that what if something important happens? Then what are you going to cut to? An extreme close-up is not really. That's really campy. You can use them when needed, but to show emotion, it's kind of like somebody singing the Star Spangled Banner. If you start too high, by the end of it, you're out of your range and it doesn't work anymore. So don't overuse the close-up. It's good to use when you want to show a through line, or if you want to show deep emotion within a scene, but don't overuse it, because when you need it, then it won't mean anything, okay? The XYZ axis, this is pretty important. It's compositional tools used by filmmakers to understand spatial relationships and points of interest. The Z-axis deals with the depth in the frame. This is where we have our three-dimensional, trick that we play on the audience. It shows the relationship of the background, middle ground, and foreground. lighting and blocking. They're the two main elements that help separate this space. You've seen commercials where people are against a white scrim or a even when you see people on green screen, sometimes you can actually see that it's not 3D because it's not lit properly. The Y and X axis helps to organize spatial relationships from left to right and from top to bottom. As you can see, the Y axis relates to the top to the bottom, the Y to the left to the right. And this is just to help you gauge your composition. This is from the movie Citizen Kane, and as you can see, Orson Welles and his wife is actually dying, and you can see he's in the background. But look at the lighting. The lighting is on him. It's his scene. But look at the lighting on the glass and the spoon and the drugs also that's in that bottle. So we're seeing what the point of interest is really, and she's in the middle ground, but there's really no light on her because there's really no life in her. So I think it's really interesting and also in the foreground, and it's at the bottom, so our eye is going to go towards that also. And if you think of the rule of thirds, this is almost perfection when we think of the rule of thirds. And if you haven't learned that, we'll get to that in a little bit. This is one of the basic setups ever when you're talking about just getting through a scene, shooting a scene. You'll see this a lot in television. It's called the camera triangle. You get the maximum amount of coverage using the minimum amount of camera setups. Picture an upside down triangle and place the camera on each 3 points of the triangle. This is not a 3-camera setup. This is one camera that you put on each. You do 3 different takes and you put it on each part of the triangle, and it adheres to the 180-degree rule and the 30-degree rule. Here's a little demonstration for you. If you look at camera position 1, that's the establishing. You can get a full 2-shot and a medium 2-shot if you're using a variable lens. If you go to camera 2, you get a profile. If you move the camera a little closer and pan it to the right a little bit, then you can have an over the shoulder of the opposite actor. And if you just replace the actor with the camera, you can have an internal POV. And then if you want, you can also do inserts or cutaways. And you can do the same on the other side. So you got 11 shots from 3 camera positions, okay? And just see, that's why we call it the camera triangle. It's the upside down triangle. And that'll give you the most amount of coverage using the most minimum amount of setups.